Monster Hunter has 14 distinct different weapons, and for a beginner, choosing your first main weapon to play the first 10, 20, maybe even 100 hours of the game is an incredibly important decision. And one of the reasons it took me so long to get into the series is because I had such a hard time choosing a weapon I enjoyed. Yet now, having played a multitude of Monster Hunter games over a couple hundred hours, I've come to find the weapons I have the most fun with, and hopefully I can help you find your main too. Now this video I'm going to be structuring into just an overall conversation on the idea of having a main in Monster Hunter. I'll be talking about firstly the idea of weapon identities, then I'll be talking about my own personal experience on how I found my main weapons in Monster Hunter, and my advice to someone starting out, or basically myself in the past, if I was to try and choose a main again. Anyway, so firstly the idea of weapon identities. I think the weapon identities is very clearly portrayed in this video by Gaijin Hunter about learning weapons better, where he basically splits the weapons into class archetypes like RPG games would, like tank, healer, DPS, etc. Splits them more into the way the weapons actually play, which is mainly in a preemptive, reactive, reflexive, explosive, and strategic playstyle. Obviously, this is slightly flawed in a sense of video because the video was released only 2 months after Rise, which significantly changed a lot of weapons and almost kind of moved them in a sense along these categories. But nonetheless, I think it's a really good way for beginners to view the weapons in Monster Hunter, not as a set kind of class, but more as a way of playing the game. In a sense, how you'll interact with monsters differently based on different weapons. But an important thing to note also is kind of the idea that Monster Hunter weapons have been increasing in speed over the last couple of years. Obviously, Wilds has slightly toned it back down, but in general, there's been an increase in player mobility and weapon mobility in a sense over the last couple of games. And I think this kind of is very important when choosing a main because, as I'll highlight later, when you're choosing a main, if you enjoy it in one specific game, there's not an 100% chance now that you'll enjoy it in another game because the weapon will be so drastically different. Like, I know very obviously stuff like Great Sword will be pretty similar throughout all the games, and Hammer and all the basic kind of weapons, but stuff say like Longsword. If you enjoy Longsword in at least World, Rise, and Wild, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much in the older generation games because of how drastically different the weapon is and how much faster it is now. Same thing goes for Charge Blade, but I'll now highlight obviously my own finding of a main in Monster Hunter. So as I said, the main Monster Hunter game I got into was Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. And in that game, I finally found the Charge Blade, which was the main weapon I enjoyed the most. And one of probably the main reasons for that is due to its really nice Silkbind moves, it's quite important, so keep that in mind. So obviously Silkbind moves with Charge Blade, Canopy Performance is probably one of the best moves with Charge Blade like ever. And also I like Axe Hopper as well. But overall, the weapon was decently fast enough that you could react to monster attacks, but you still had to kind of be a bit preemptive, sometimes a bit like, oh, I need to wait slightly for an opening, get the SAD. But overall, I can pretty much just tank the monster's attack and just keep going at it, in a sense. This is not the same thing in World. So when I finished most of Rise and wanted to try some World again, I tried Charge Blade and I had a really hard time, I'm not gonna lie. Like, Charge Blade in World is so much slower in comparison to Rise and has not any of the tools to react as fast, like Canopy Performance and also the countermorphing slash. That's something I should have mentioned. But overall, World just did not have these tools in the Charge Blade's kit to be able to react to monsters that I normally used to be able to. And even though the game and somewhat the monsters could be considered slower, my overall misunderstanding of the weapon's changed identity, going from more of a reflexive and reactive kind of weapon to more of a almost preemptive weapon like the Hammer and Greatsword in a sense, due to having to really time the SAED attacks and really look for more clear openings, it was either difficult because I had to either change the way I played the weapon or just change my weapon. And so I chose the latter option. So I'm gonna then it's gonna pivot because obviously like I played through a bit of World and Iceborne, but it kind of stopped a bit, and then Wilds came out, so I played Wilds, and Wilds was a game that I think was the best for me in terms of being able to try new weapons, because in a sense having the game be so accessible and have so much more quality of life and overall have just a really nice amount of player control, all the weapons were just really well tuned, and in a sense it felt really natural to just pick them up and just play them for a while. So in that game, I played like most of the weapons. I think I have a screenshot from a previous video. I'll put it on here again. But I did play a lot of the weapons and I got to experiment with it. And one of the ones that obviously that I found that I actually really synergized with well was the Longsword, because like the Charge Blade, it had a lot of ability to react well to the monster and keep like tanking the attacks like they did in Rise with like Canopy Performance, but now to a much greater degree. Obviously it didn't have as much of the defensive action, but I was willing to sacrifice that because I enjoyed the overall feeling of getting those counters and being able to actually read the monster instead of more being preemptive, which in a sense. So anyway, from that exploration in wilds, I did find some other weapons, but that's a topic for another video. I found longsword actually really good. Then eventually I went back to Rise, played a bit of Rise with longsword, and found that also really satisfying. And then finally I went back to World and Iceborne, and this is kind of where it really much clicked, because I'd say Iceborne's longsword is definitely not its most overpowered state. You can obviously see that in Rise. Rise is probably, it's really cracked, and also Wilds, it's busted. But in World, the counter kind of meta for the weapon, it's not 100% there. It only has like 3 counters ish, like compared to like Rises, like you can get like 6 parries or something. It's insane. But the point was, going back to World, where obviously the gameplay was a lot slower and the weapons are a lot slower, I actually really enjoyed playing longsword instead, and I found myself having a much easier time actually at the game, because the weapon identity fit my playstyle a lot better, right? Because like look at the background is a hunt from Raging Brachydios. I started this hunt with Charge Blade, I could not start it, but now I could do this pretty easily with longsword, and it kind of just showed how, for me, changing the weapon to match my specific playstyle was better than trying to change my playstyle for the given weapon's identity in that game. Anyway, so that's my idea. That's my overall experience with choosing my main in Monster Hunter. But now I want to give my advice to someone that if they were starting the Monster Hunter series or Monster Hunter game or whatever, that they could choose main. And obviously the main thing I think is that people say, like, in a lot of games, like, choose whichever one's cool. But I think, I'm not gonna lie, I can't do that. I don't understand cool in this sense. Like, I want to know the in-depth outs of the weapon. And if you want to know that, then good. Watch some YouTube videos, play maybe the first like 10 hours with multiple weapons because you're not stuck to a build, and just see what clicks. Will admit though, there is one point in the Gaijin Hunter video that he does make very well, and that's obviously learn these weapons to get better. And in a sense, there is kind of a point where your weapon will dictate like how you understand the game. Like, for example, I'd say it's definitely true. Like, the preemptive action weapons of Hammer and Greatsword are definitely the best ones to learn the game, because it really gets you to understand the monster. And when it's your turn, in a sense, that's a lot of other creators have covered the idea of turns in Monster Hunter. But those are kind of the weapons that would be really good to use as a beginner if you want to actually learn the game in a sense. But again, like, it's a video game. You want to have fun, right? So overall, I would really just highlight like which weapon and in which of its identities would fit your playstyle best. Because everyone has a different playstyle in video games. Like, I personally, as I've said before, I like the going at the monster and being able to keep doing damage while they're attacking me, or being able to react really well and do big numbers of damage as well. And for me, that was longsword and charge blade. But other people have different things. They want to maybe be support. They want to be maybe more of a tank and be able to just take every monster and react to every monster. Or they might want to, you know, be a light bow gunner, heavy bow gunner, taking everything from a range. Everyone has different options. And in a sense, you really just need to understand not just the game, but also yourself and how you like to play video games, and adapt that to the different weapon identities in Monster. And so that's my feedback. I'm sorry, not my feedback. That's like my advice for if you were starting Monster Hunter and you wanted to pick a main. Obviously, again, and then the final thing, one final thing is, again, understand yourself, the weapon identities, and most importantly, the game you're playing it in. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons I got confused in World, because I didn't find the weapon that fit for me, because I just assumed Charge Blade would be good again, but I had such a hard time. But changing a weapon made me feel much better. So again, understand what game you're playing in and how that weapon might have changed or might be different in that game versus other games if you're going to a different game. But anyway, that's gonna be the video. Yeah, it's my rant on, well, not kind of rant, but just like my idea on how you find a main in Monster Hunter and my experience with the main. And overall, like, this is just only the starting zone. I feel eventually, if you've played Monster Hunter enough, you can basically play any weapons to a competent degree, because you understand the game's overall mechanics and how to work around a monster in a specific playstyle. But for beginners and, like, you know, like baby veterans like myself, I obviously still think a main is a great way to get through the game and obviously enjoy it to the best, because you can improve with just one specific thing. But yeah. Anyways, make sure you guys check out the live streams on YouTube. I'll be streaming mainly World at the moment, so join some lobbies. I did actually manage to join Dad After Bedtime's lobby in the last stream, which is pretty cool, so shout out to him. He was so cool, bro. And other than that, yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one, and check out the stream if you want, and yeah, peace.